The NFL coaching carousel is a complete madhouse right now. And with three of the biggest names of all time moving on and their teams moving on from them, you got to question, you got to start wondering, maybe things are different in the NFL. Would they be different in Pittsburgh? What's going on, everybody? I'm Noah Strackmine. Thank you for jumping on to Steelers to Go, your daily to-go cup of Pittsburgh Steelers news and analysis. Find us on youtube.com/all Steelers talkers. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. The Pittsburgh Steelers obviously preparing for the Buffalo Bills, but the NFL as a whole has gone nuts. In the past 24 hours, the coaching carousel has watched Pete Carroll move to an advisory role that, frankly, he was not ready to move into, and was very open that when he spoke to the players for the last time, he was not expecting that move to happen. Meanwhile, Nick Saban walks away, retires from the University of Alabama, an absolutely shocking move that sent, well, shockwaves through the entire football world. And then we woke up this morning to the second biggest banger, because I don't know how you beat Saban. Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots deciding to part ways and move on. And everybody's shocked. The world of football right now is very different than it's been in a long, long time. And the greats, well, the greats are either done or they're looking for new jobs. And that is crazy to think. And before that, you had names like Mike Vrabel get tossed out there, and Mike Tomlin's name has been talked about all season long, and you have to start wondering. You have to start putting the pieces together. You have to start looking at the big picture and asking the question, when it comes to Mike Tomlin, when it comes to all the thoughts and beliefs that we have gone through all season long, when it came to everybody, not just Bill Belichick, not just Mike Tomlin, not just Mike Vrabel, not just Pete Carroll, everybody that we sat through the season hearing about when it came to coaching changes and thinking, no, that's not going to happen. Why would that? There's no way that's going to happen. And then they slowly start to happen, one by one by one. The NFL is a changing game constantly. And teams are always looking for the most successful coach, the most successful player, the most successful quarterback, the most successful team that they could possibly put on the field. That's why they make these moves. And maybe, just maybe, you got to start asking the question, would Pittsburgh follow suit? Would they be the next organization to follow the trend of, well, our legendary coach is legendary, and we respect and appreciate how legendary that coach is, but we're looking to win, and Super Bowls are our game, and we need to win some. And maybe, just maybe, the Pittsburgh Steelers look at it and they say the same thing. Now, let's lay it out here and then answer the question. To lay it out, pretty simply, it's been a long time since Mike Tomlin has won a playoff game. And the last time he was in the dance, he got smoked by the Kansas City Chiefs. And the time before that was against the Cleveland Browns in a matchup that, well, it might have been closer than it actually should have been. And it was as sloppy of a game as it could possibly be. A game that you really went in there thinking, okay, the end of the season didn't go well, but there's an opportunity. Kansas City, you knew what was coming. You knew the whole time what was coming. And this year, all season long, we're talking about, okay, Mike Tomlin can't get the job done anymore. It's over. He's lost his touch with this football team. I can't believe that we're still talking about winning seasons. That doesn't mean anything if you're not going to win a Super Bowl, if you're not going to win a playoff game. And here we are. The Steelers are in the dance. They're in the postseason. They get a shot at the Bills on Sunday. And you're sitting around thinking, okay, maybe there's a chance. Maybe they could win it. Maybe the Steelers could move forward. And me and Stephen Thompson talked about it yesterday and went deep into, if the Steelers beat Buffalo, they should be able to beat everybody else in the postseason. They should beat everybody else in the AFC. And it's not going to be easy. Nothing is handed to anybody, but Buffalo is their toughest opponent. But the Steelers head into the game as 10-point underdogs. And there is by no means any chance that they should lose by 10 points. Not in the playoffs, not a team that is the second hottest team in the NFL, not a team that looks as good as the Pittsburgh Steelers have looked the last 3 weeks, that people are saying, oh, they could do things, that we're saying, oh, they could do things. That shouldn't happen to the Pittsburgh Steelers. But what if it does? What if they get smoked by the Buffalo Bills? What if they lose big? What if Josh Allen comes out here and balls out and the Steelers have no shot top to bottom and they just look like a team that, well, frankly, didn't deserve to be in the dance to begin with? That maybe they did just get lucky. What if that happens? What if Mike Tomlin proves once again that right now all he is a coach that can coach you to the playoffs, but he can't coach you through the playoffs? Do the Steelers start to think about it? Now let's lay that out. The answer is probably no. The answer is probably the Steelers are not going to think that way, that they're going to head into the offseason and they're going to look at his contract and say, okay, we're going to extend you. We're going to give you another 3 years. Things will be fine. We have faith in Mike Tomlin, and the organization has faith in this coaching staff to, well, win ball games and take us to hopefully a Super Bowl, because that is always the idea. But I think that that's the last one. I think that Mike Tomlin's clock begins to tick because of how the NFL rolls. That if the Steelers don't look like a Super Bowl team and they aren't winning in the playoffs like a Super Bowl team, the next time this contract is up, there's no reason to keep Mike Tomlin around. And I'm a Mike Tomlin supporter. I'm a guy that when things were bad, I would say Mike Tomlin doesn't have a grip of this team, that maybe it is time to move on from Mike Tomlin. But when things are good and the back is against the wall and Mike Tomlin does what Mike Tomlin does best, you have to acknowledge when Mike Tomlin does what Mike Tomlin does best. And that's what he did these last 3 weeks. And that's what he did for 17 seasons. And that's impressive. But as the NFL is changing, the landscape is constantly moving. And coaches and teams are looking at this as, okay, there are promising head coaches around the league that we are ready to make a move for. The Steelers, they're not thinking the same way. And granted, Mike Tomlin is significantly younger than Bill Belichick and Pete Carroll. But he's actually not younger at all than Mike Vrabel. And he moved on. And the Tennessee Titans moved on. So it wouldn't be this time. The Steelers aren't going to look at this and say, oh, we're moving on. Even with a bad loss to Buffalo, they'd look at it and say, we got coaching changes, or we got quarterback changes, we got roster moves to make. We got to set this team up for next season. But next season begins the clock. And the year after that, the clock gets faster. And the year after that, the clock gets very close to zero. Because the NFL is changing. Mike Tomlin would be the last of the very legendary coaches that are questioned about whether or not they should continue to coach in the team that they are currently coaching in. Andy Reid would probably be the other one, but he's earned his place in Kansas City until that place is no longer wanted, until he wants to retire. He is in Kansas City. Mike Tomlin, the past couple of years, has not earned that same respect. And he's earned the respect to get a contract extension. He's earned the respect to right now be looked at as a guy that if he wants to leave, he can leave, but the Steelers aren't looking to get rid of him. But he's the last of them. He is next up on that list of great legendary Hall of Fame coaches who are probably being considered maybe a change of scenery is best for both sides. That clock starts ticking after Buffalo. And if they win in Buffalo, which I think is very possible, and like I said, and I don't want to bring this down because my original thought on my to-go today was the Steelers have a shot at a Super Bowl run. And they have a real shot at making a playoffs or making a deep run in the playoffs and beating these teams. And anybody who's sitting around, I was talking to people in the cafeteria yesterday, and we were just talking about, hey, this could possibly happen. This is a real thought that people should have. And the optimism should be very real, and the support for this team should be as high as possible, because anybody sitting around saying, oh, they're going to get beat by Buffalo, or they have no shot against Baltimore, they would never last in Kansas City. I don't know. I don't know how much AFC football you've watched. I don't know how much Pittsburgh Steelers football you've watched, but I think all those things are possible. But if they don't, and if it goes south, And again, I don't want to be that guy, but if they go south, that clock begins to tick. If it goes right, if they win, that clock starts over. And Mike Tomlin's here until Mike Tomlin doesn't want to be here anymore. And maybe that's 20 years from now. Maybe it's 10. Who knows? But that clock, it could go one of two ways. And with Bill Belichick being the next name to move on, and Pete Carroll in the 24 hours that the coaching carousel has had just around football in general, I mean, you got to start thinking like this, because this is the biggest change the NFL has seen in a long, long, long time. And when you're talking about legendary coaches, Mike Tomlin's probably next on that list.